Well, hi, everybody. This is DearMamaSal, and we are back again. Good to see you. And tonight we're going to be having some very interesting questions in terms of our emotional intelligence. So, if you haven't got a pen and a piece of paper ready, you might want to, if you're the sort of person that likes to learn and take notes. There's some interesting points that are going to come up. For those of you who are watching for the first time, let me explain how we do the broadcast. The first little while, we actually talk about news, views, and updates. Hi, Jody, and hi, Jonas. And then what we will do is after we've done those, we will get on to the main topic, which, as I've said, today will be about emotional intelligence. The reason we like to do the news, views, and updates is we really are an extended family of people here. And that is as important to us as anything. Hi, Beth, and hi, Marie. It's good to see you all. So I'm hoping that you will enjoy this. It'll be a little bit challenging for some, but that's a good thing because you will realize that your emotions take control. And so I'm going to be talking quite a few challenging things. Hi, Nana. And then what we're going to do is see how we all cope with it. So first of all, just in terms of updates, news and views, thoughts and prayers, please, for Marie. Her family dog passed on this week. Really sad. We all, well, a lot of us have been through it, so we know the pain of that, especially when it's been the dog that you grew up with in the family. So that was the first thing. The other thing is thoughts and prayers for Lauren, who not only is in hospital, but now has her mum in hospital with her as well. So, as far as we know, hi, Kerry, as far as we know, her mum has a back issue, and that's why she is in hospital. I do believe that Lauren's doing well enough that she might be coming home pretty soon. So, that would be wonderful news. For those of you who followed my journey over the years, just to tell you that tomorrow will be 6 years, a celebration of having given up cigarettes. For somebody who smoked well, and for somebody who tried everything in the world to stop smoking since she was 20, I actually finally did it on January the 12th. 2013. And so I just wanted you to know that that's quite a meaningful milestone for me. It's really surprising. Wow, that's interesting. Jonas is saying that he's trying white light therapy. That's the daylight spectrum to combat seasonal depression. And it seems to be working quite well. Are you taking vitamin B? D for Donald. The reason I ask that is I used to get seasonal depression every year until I started to take vitamin D. Yes, and Kerry is mentioning that her 5-year non-smoking mark is coming up on March the 15th. Yeah, I really want to tell you, I found that, really going, I found out what the right amount was to take, and I can't remember what it is now. But I really didn't just take a multivitamin. I made sure that my sunshine vitamin, which is vitamin D, came right up. And I have to tell you, Jonas, I have not had situational depression since then. And I don't know whether it's because I got my ducks in a row but I've always credited vitamin D for doing it for me. So, what other news and views and updates? Let me think. Anybody else got any news that we need to, not need to, but you'd like to share, just so that I know that before we move on? We had an interesting week. I've got an interesting week coming up. I had an interesting week in as much as I did really well at the doctors this week. For those of you who might not have seen the update, I couldn't believe it. I have one of those doctors that really, doesn't give me credit for anything. And when I told him, he asked me a couple of questions about my diabetes. And by the way, for those of you who missed it, my A1C came in at 5.9, which is, he said I must have been eating very well healthily, balanced-wise, over the last 30 days for that to have come in like that. And I think he was a bit shocked. I think he thought it was going to be way worse than that. And so, all right, no problem, Jonas. It's a bit late for a Christmas party, but I like the idea of doing it late rather than soon. Anyway, so what I wanted to say was that I was actually surprised because I think 5 different times he said good, good, good. And I'm going, wow, I've never heard him say good to me that many times. So I will be next going to see a dietitian and getting trained on stuff I probably already know, thanks to you guys. The other thing is that on Thursday, I'm going for a CAT scan of my lungs. And I thought that would be a good week for us to talk about some of these emotional, intelligent things, because I want to talk about how I process things in terms of something like a CAT scan. So, anybody else got any other news? What have I forgotten? I don't think we've got any birthdays this week that I remember. Let me double check here. Huh. I don't think so. I know we had one last week. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe we do. Just hold on one second, people. I just want to double check the birthdays here. Just loading up birthdays. And yeah, the only birthday that we had this week was, for those of you who go way back to the days of Blog TV, Medic Sizzle, if you remember him. It was his birthday on Tuesday, and that's the only birthday. We've got a number of them coming up for the older timers next week, but that's the only one from this week. So I believe that this is going to be quite a big topic and quite moving for some of you. So I'm going to move right along. If nobody's got any other. Yeah, Erin's is coming up at the end of the month. I think the 28th. Let me double check that. 26th. I was close. Yeah, and Becca's as well on the 28th. That's who's on the 28th. But we've got good. So well remembered there, Kerry. All right, so I'm going to give a time check here for 8 minutes, Jody. And we're going to start talking a little bit more about this emotional intelligence thing. And I think the point that I said is the very first part of being emotionally intelligent is to be very self-aware. And I thought I would give us some points to discuss around being self-aware, as to make sure we're all on the same page. One of the most important things that they say about your emotions, excuse me, is to stop treating your feelings as good or bad. How many of you think that when you're having a bad feeling that it's not good, that you should be having a good one? What they say in terms of emotional intelligence is you just have feelings. And if you can get really straight on that, one of the key things about being emotionally intelligent is not to judge your feelings. So how many of you think you judge your feelings? And how many of you are learning not to do that? And one of the reasons that it says that is because each one of your feelings is there to teach you something important about yourself. And if you can see that each time you get triggered, each time you get upset, each time you get angry, that it's actually part of your learning if you choose to let it be that, then you will grow exponentially a huge amount. Because what you will be doing is seeing that all these things, hi Nyasha. Yes, Jody's saying she judges hers. I think we all do to some degree, Jody, but she's learning to correct it. All right, good. Do you want to give us an example, Jody, if you can? Just something that we can latch our thoughts too around that? How many of you relate to that, where you judge your feelings? And what I'd like to do is to... All right. So Kerry's saying she judges hers so she can try and figure out why she's feeling that way. Can you give us an example where you judged your feeling, Kerry? And you see, the reason that I'm asking that is because if we can give an example of how people had a feeling, they judged it, and then how they processed out of it, that will help the people who are not doing it. All right, so Jody's saying the moment she reacts in panic, I judge myself harshly and tell myself to grow up. But the question is, why do you panic? All right. So that would be the first question. Why did I just panic? Now, Jody, I would like to suggest that in most cases you have a good reason to panic. All right. That's the first part of it, which is ask yourself, before I judge myself, let me just check in. Why did I panic? Now, can some of you who know panic well, all right. So Jody says, for example, when her lymphoderma, that's the disease that Jody suffers from, when her level is out of control, she panics. All right. But Jody, is it okay to discuss it a bit more? Kerry's saying, if I'm crabby out of nowhere, I run through a list of, am I hungry? Am I getting tired? So she runs through a list to try and find out why she's being crabby. All right. So Jody, why do you panic when your level is out of control? You have a good reason to have a little bit of a panic there. All right. So what is your fear? Because I'm certain a lot of people don't understand why you would panic when your levels are out of control. And how many of you have had that feeling of panic, maybe because your bank balance was out of control, or your love life was out of control, or I can think of so many different areas where we get out of control and our reaction is to panic. Right. So Kerry's saying if she feels anxious, she wonders why I'm feeling that way. Well, most anxiety, as we know, is out of fear. That there's nearly always a fear around anxiety. I fear looking stupid. I fear going out in public because they may judge me. I fear da 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 da. It's amazing how many of the anxiety issues are based in fear. So Jody's saying her fear is that literally her skin will explode. I know that sounds bizarre, she says, but no, Jody, having had a little of what you suffer from, I can tell you I totally agree with you. You wonder how much more your skin can possibly stretch. All right. And it's like you feel that your skin is stretched as far as it's going to. Yeah, I totally understand. And then what would happen? I always remember, Jody, I've got a doctor with a weird sense of humor. I remember going there once because a chiropractor thought they saw in a X-ray that they did that I had a shadow on my aorta, which meant that it was an issue. And she actually reported it back to my doctor. And I said to my doctor when I went to see him, is that an issue? If I do have what she thought she saw. And he said, well, let's put it this way. If you had what she thought she saw, then your aorta could split. And I said, really? And what would be the result of that? And, and I'm saying, trying to keep a straight face. And he said, well, Sal, you'd get one heck of a stomachache, but not for long. And I don't know about you. It was just like, being able to get the answer, but also being able to laugh at the end of it did me a lot of good. Yes, all right. But the main thing we're dealing with is not how to fix it at the moment, Kerry. We're talking about, do you understand that your feelings are there because they are your feelings? You know, if you're scared, then you need to understand that's your stuff. You know, if it's emotional, it's your stuff. If you are anxious, that's because you are out of control, not because of somebody else, right? So this is a really important thing to get. And how we deal with it is another thing. But first of all, let's make sure we understand. All right, so Nyasha says, I tend to think a lot about the future where my medical needs are concerned. And the thought of my parents not being able to be here anymore scares me, leaving me to cope with myself. You know, totally, that makes perfect sense. But it is a reality that you do need to look at and start talking about. You know, that's the whole thing. So, how many of you, when you hear that I'm going for a CAT scan, um, have a negative reaction to that? Because part of what I wanted to talk about is reality says, what are the chances that there could be something wrong when I had a lifetime of smoking? It's interesting that I'm coming up to 6 years smoke free and I'm having my lungs CAT scanned this week. So, you know, I look at it and I have to tell you that in terms of keeping my emotional intelligence in check, I actually go, well, what if they do find something? And I don't go, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Because there is absolutely no reason to think like that yet. But on the other hand, that logical part of me says, okay, so what if there is something? What sort of things do I know I will need to start putting in place? And that's really about as far as my mind has taken me on that one. I will worry about the steps that need to be taken in more detail, you know, if and when I hear there's something that I need to get sorted out. Yes, so Niesh is saying that's as well, Mama Sal, because most of us just see the negative results. Yes, to me, I have no reason to see negative results, but I want to be ready for both. Now, Nyasha and everybody else who is inclined to seriously react to things, can you understand that if I have looked at both sides, first of all, I have it in my book. I don't have my diary with me right now, but in my book, it actually says CAT scan equals clear. You know, that's been my goal for this month, is that my CAT scan will come back clear. But on the other hand, you know, it makes perfect sense that it might not. And so to me, if I have thought about what would happen if it doesn't come back clear, do you understand? I'm not going to be quite as shocked if that comes back that way, because I've already given that a little bit of thought, haven't panicked about it because I haven't got that result, haven't panicked about it, but I have just done what needs to be done. I'm thinking about Jody, and Jody, let me now go on to the next step, Jody, and see if you can relate to this. The next thing it says about our emotions is that you be very aware of the ripple effect. So, Jody, when you panic, do you agree that those negative, panicky emotions ripple outwards? Who do they affect in your life? All right. And the rest of you, when you get crabby, Kerry, or you know, when you start to panic or whatever it is you're doing, those negative emotions ripple outwards. And what I'd like you to think about is, who do they affect? You know, yes, they affect Lionel. Do they affect the fluff ball, your little adorable dog? You know, are you less patient with the fluff ball eating up your couch when you're in a panic? So, what I want you to be able to see is that, hi, Isabel, that your emotions don't just affect you. good or bad, whatever they are, they affect everybody. How many of you have noticed when you are in a good emotional space, everybody around you gets the ripple effect of that as well? True? Yes, Jody. You see, so you're not as likely to want to play with the fluff ball if you are in a panic stage or overwhelm or whatever. So that's the second part of this, which is be aware of your emotions and your feelings. They're not good or bad, they're just your feelings and you need to own them. The second thing is understand their ripple effect. All right. So when you're saying to yourself, I need to get myself under control, maybe the way to help you get it under control is to say to yourself, because I'm not just punishing myself, I'm punishing everybody that I speak to today on the phone, everybody that is within my sphere of influence. So the other thing it recommends that you do is to really lean into your discomfort. Now, has anybody got an idea of what that means? How to lean into your discomfort? So, can you see that if I choose to look at, I'm having a CAT scan done, I could end up with cancer. Yeah, that could be the end result of this CAT scan, which is not a comfortable feeling. But if I lean into it and go, okay, but then these are the steps that need to be taken if that is so. If I can look at all that dispassion without sort of a whole lot of panic and just that it's a reality, possible reality, then I'm not going to be as panic stricken about having the CAT scan done. What happens if my only thought about having a CAT scan done is that CAT scan equals cancer? Then you can understand I probably wouldn't be having the CAT scan done. How many of you can see that a lot of people won't even have the scan done because their fear of what it might show? Yes, so now Jody is saying if she sees that her numbers are wrong with the lymphoderma, she says, if she says to herself, if my skin does split and gets infected, then obviously we'll have to deal with that in a different way. And by the way, Jody, do you know how to deal with that? Do you have that knowledge? Because if you do have that knowledge, and if you do have plan B standing by, that you have all the equipment you need in case that happens, or most of what you can do for yourself, do you understand that could save a whole lot of stress on your part? That could help your emotions get totally under control. Nyasha, if you could see and be able to plan, I know that's difficult with your parents, but what their vision is as to who will look after you in the event that something happens to them. And, if you could have that discussion, it would be helpful. Now, if they just roll their eyes and say, well, you're on your own, and you go, I think we need to start looking at that because I am not trained to be on my own. And that's why I need you to help teach me things, is because at the moment, I do not have the skills to be on my own, and I need them. And, and that would be a really good way for you to start taking more responsibility. And even if you don't do it well, to start learning how to do it. How many of you can feel your emotions physically? How many of you have noticed when you get into a panic, you start breathing from the top part of your lungs? How many of you notice that when you get nervous, you start doing things? Now, you might see me scratch my hand, and the reason I do is I have psoriasis, and it gets itchy every now and then. So, all right. So Jody says when she goes into a panic, her heart rate goes wild. All right. So you can feel your emotions physically. Now, if you can create that inside yourself, do you understand, Jody, that you do that to yourself? All right. It is your thinking that drives your heart rate mad. Have we all got that clear in our minds? Nobody from the outside is doing it. You're doing it with your emotional intelligence. Okay, 100% you got that. That's great. All right, so if you say, I am capable of pushing my heart rate up, does it also make equal sense, Jody, that you are equally capable of pushing your heart rate down? And you all have heard me say, if you are having an anxiety attack of any sort, the fastest way you can get yourself under control is to start counting. Hi, Tap Trap. Welcome. So, right, the fastest way that you can get yourself back under control is to start counting. And the reason is because counting requires that you think, not about whatever it is that's put you into a panic, but you need to think about counting. Of course, if you really are in an anxiety attack and you want to really get control, try counting backwards. And if you definitely want to make sure, try counting backwards with 13 at a time or something that requires a great deal of thought. All right. So Niesh is saying it wasn't a sit-down decision, but they had mentioned to me once that I will be going to her sister to live, if that happens, all right? But I don't like that idea very much. Yes, so Nyasha, but you may not have a choice on that, right? Because your aunt might be the only person that is willing to look after you or capable of looking after you. And so unless you're capable of looking after yourself, that is not something over which you will have a lot of choice. That's a great motivation to learn how to look after yourself or to live in a group setting with other people. All right, so Jody's saying counting brings you into the present moment. Yes, it sure does. And it brings you into the present moment very quickly if you can force yourself to do it. Have any of you tried that, by the way? Have any of you tried the counting thing to get out of an anxiety attack? Yep, Jody's saying that she has. I had something happen recently that put me over the edge a bit, and I literally stopped and I went, wait a minute, I'm out of control here. Let me start counting. And I literally counted very slowly for about 20 counts and then said, now then, as an adult, what needs to be done? I don't care how scared you are of doing it, but what needs to be done? Think like an adult, not like a child. And it's not easy. What has to be done might not be easy, but the panic comes from the kid in you, not the adult. Yes, so Niash is saying, I'd like to be as independent as much as possible. That's what you view yourself being in the future. Good, then you need to train yourself how to do that. And I think the thing that I would start with, Niasha, is to make a list of the things that you'd like to be able to do on your own. Yeah, what are the things you'd like to learn how to do on your own? Now, depression is an interesting thing. I'm not a doctor, and I just want to make sure we get that really clear, nor am I a therapist. But I have had a depression in my time and for quite a lot of my time. And I did get myself out of it. And I did find out how not to go back there. Nana, you're putting words into my mouth and saying that anxiety and depression are childish. No, but what they are they are not us thinking like adults in a lot of ways. So let me give you an example. If you are terrified to go out All right. Do you understand that is not your rational mind? That is a psychological, more childish mind. Does that make sense? It's not that you are childish, it's that you rationally haven't emotionally grown to that point where you can go, rationally, that's not true. It's not true that if I go outside, um, I'm going to get hurt, or it's not true that, you know, I have a fear of heights. I frighten myself when I go up. It's not, it's something I do to myself. Right. I don't think it's childish, but what it is, if you can think of it this way, Nana, it helps a great deal, that it's not your rational mind. It is a mind that hasn't learned how to process properly yet, for whatever reason. Now, in case of depression, quite often depression is how can I call it? A chemical imbalance, where the thinking has been really messed up for so long that you end up with a chemical imbalance. And I've been there. I've been quite seriously depressed in my time, so I understand that side of it as well. But I also understand that you can't think your way out of depression. The pills will only help you cope with it. They will not. I don't think the pills take you out of it. I think you have to take yourself out of depression. And the way you take yourself out is by doing things. It's really, give yourself achievement. I would say that Nyasha getting on her elliptical and doing 3 minutes on her elliptical will do more for her mental health than sitting around feeling sorry for herself, for example. How does one do what? How does one do your way out of depression? Is that what you're asking? I don't have the answer for everybody else. I can only tell you what I did for myself. I really stopped feeling sorry for myself and started to ask myself, what would a very together person think about this? And I started to stop thinking the way that I was thinking and change my way of thinking. So to me, it's really important that you understand. I've been dealing with this a long time. I've been trying to help myself a long time. I didn't want to spend my life on medication, which is basically what I was leading towards. I was getting situationally depressed every winter, and half the time I was depressed in the summer as well. So, I mean, it was just like, I didn't think that was a fun way for me to live. So I decided to make changes. So one of the things that they say is to watch yourself like a hawk. See where you talk to yourself. How many of you have noticed you give yourself excuses for everything? I don't think I'll go out and walk today. It's raining. I don't think I will tidy up today. I don't feel well. And you've got 1,001 reasons for not doing anything. And if you find that you live your life by excuses, you know that you are not dealing in reality a great deal. Because to me, the people I've met that deal in reality go, yeah, I might not be feeling very well, but what can I do? They don't talk about all the reasons why they can't do things. They keep saying, what can I do? And that is a healthy emotional response. I might not be able to do all the things I want to do, but what can I do? I might not be able to spend 20 minutes on my elliptical, Nyasha, for example, but can I do 1 minute? And if so, I will have achievement, and that will make me feel better. All right, so Jody's saying, I used to be that way. Now I really need to check to see if I'm using an excuse or whether it's a valid reason. Exactly. What can I do? Yes, what can I do? That's what I'm saying. If you can have a I can mentality, you will move yourself out of depression and into. Now it's more difficult, Nana. I got to tell you that. Without a doubt, ignorance was bliss. I loved when I look back on it now. It was much easier to blame everything on everybody around me and everything around me. My parents, my friends, my coworkers, whatever. It was much easier to blame everybody than it is to actually say, I am responsible for my mood. It's not somebody else's, it's mine. If somebody triggers me, it's my response, not that they push my button. I push my button. And one of the things that they said, yeah, that's wonderful that you've never blamed anyone, Nana. And I must say that is wonderful. So yeah, Jody relates to playing the blame game. It's much easier, isn't it? Yeah. But Nana, but you have been in depression. So what took you into depression if it wasn't blaming others? If you want to discuss it, because I'm certain that would be interesting for people. It also said, when I was doing the research into this, this first thing about being self-aware, don't be fooled by a bad mood. All right? How many of you blame a lot of things? Well, I'm sorry about that, but I was in a bad mood. You see, if you can blame the bad mood, then you're still blaming something other than yourself. If you get overwhelmed, all right, that is that you've got too much to do and you're trying to be a perfectionist and get it all done. So, the only way to deal with overwhelm, right, is to break it down and put it into manageable pieces or delegate it. And that's something that's very difficult. But you're saying overwhelm puts you into depression. Is that correct? Normally, depression is anger turned inwards at somewhere. And that's why I'm saying that a lot of depression, when you actually look at it and do the work on it, you will see that you're angry at somebody or something. Yeah, delegation is really important to learn. You don't have to do everything yourself. For example, Nana, I was thinking about, now that I sort of am beginning to see the light at the end of the tunnel of the downsizing, do I really want to end up packing up the last of it? Or do I want to bring in a company to come and pack the rest up and take it wherever it needs to go? Do I want to spend that money and save myself that stress? And part of me, I might well do that. I've done a lot of work. I've worked very hard. Nyasha, it is possible to send me the information, but I will not be reading it because it'll take my mind off what I'm saying. So you could send it to me, and then if you want me to discuss it, I could bring it up at another broadcast. How's that? This has taken a year. Yes, it has. I'm so glad that it has. I'm still moving. Yeah, absolutely. So what makes you think that I'm not moving just because it's taken a year? That's how long it took. It takes as long as it takes. I had a choice. I could pack everything up and take it with me and sort it out the other side, or I could, slowly work my way through room by room and do a lot of the sorting out before I left. I will still be doing the sorting out when I unpack it. But yes, you see, it's about you, right? You keep waiting to see what will happen. You want to get excited for me. I love that. Oh, I'm sorry. You said, and I quote, Nana, are you still moving? This has taken a year. Right? You questioned whether I was still moving. All right. So, right? And yes, I believe I am. Only God knows that for sure. So I'm going to go back to this thing about don't be fooled. Don't be fooled by a bad mood, right? How many of you can blame a lot of activities on your bad mood? Yeah, I'm sorry about that, but I was in a bad mood at the time. Nana, I think you know, and I don't want to discuss that a whole lot, but I think you know I financially cannot afford to stay here. It's not that I don't want to. It's not that I want to move. It's I have to move. I think we've already discussed that. I cannot afford the upkeep of a house as big as this without starting again. Yes, but it would not be reality for me to live my life waiting to win the lottery. If I win the lottery before I sell the house, I assure you I will be a very happy person, but I don't participate in the lottery, so therefore it's unlikely that I would win one. So what it says is don't be fooled by a bad mood, but what about a good one? You know, how many of you, if you're in a good mood, suddenly everything looks so much easier. What it's saying is just stay in the center. Don't go too far in the past. Don't go too far into the present. So, and then the next thing is, and that's something that Kerry was talking about, ask yourself, why do you do this to yourself? Why do you do the things that you do? So let me ask you, when you overwhelm, Nana, what do you do? What causes the overwhelm? And does your reaction cause you to be even more overwhelmed? So if you can see these things and see what you do to yourself, then you will have gained a major step forward into emotional intelligence. That is the point that I want to make here. For some of you, I wanted to ask you if you relate to, for example, I was trying to think that some of our reactions on our emotions are totally subconscious. How many of you can be watching the New Year's Eve, the New Year's Eve celebrations around the world and suddenly start crying? Do any of you have that happen? Or you're watching a movie and you're so into the movie that you start crying, or you're reading a book and you're so into it that you start to, or you hear the words of a love song and start crying. And so the thing that they're saying about emotional intelligence is that when those things happen, ask yourself, why am I crying? Now, it's an uncomfortable discussion to have. To be quite honest, it's an uncomfortable discussion to have, because for a lot of people, they cry in movies, and because it's happy, and they're sad that they can't be happy like the people in the movies. They'll listen to a country and Western song and start crying because it reminds them about how somebody broke their heart. Nana's saying that a love song will do it for her. Yes. We all have different reasons. So I don't know your reason. I can only look at my own. But, when you can look inwardly and say, why do I react like that? I was trying to work out, why do I react the way I do on New Year's Eve? Part of it is, do any of you get cheery when it's beautiful? When the firework display is just so magical that it touches you. And, so to me, I look at it and I go, there's something about the beauty of it that affects me. And I really haven't quite worked out why yet, because that's a part of my life I'm still looking at. Why do I cry when the beauty of it touches my soul to that degree? When I was at Disneyland, I cried watching the watching the firework display and everything, because it was so magnificent in so many ways. To me, it's like, it's a really important thing to understand. And so, to me, it's something that you need. Now, Nana's saying she hates fireworks. It reminds her of the war her parents fought in. But Nana, you need to understand that you choose to associate those two things. You choose to associate fireworks with war. That is your link, right? Because the rest of the world doesn't associate fireworks with the war. That's something that you do, for either you were taught that or somebody put that into your mind, but you have not processed out of that, is the point. So for me, you can also say that people with PTSD from the war, all right? So that's the ripple effect, Nana. Nana's saying, right, even though it reminds her of the war, she still takes the kids to them. But she obviously doesn't enjoy it, and that would be a ripple effect on the children, right? She does it, but the ripple effect would be, if it scares her because it reminds her of the war her parents fought in. Well, my parents fought in it too. But I never have an association of fireworks and war. It's just I never linked those two things together. I'm sad for you, because that must be a horrible thing to link. So the other thing that it says is, get to know yourself under stress. How many of you, when you get under stress, don't like yourself very much? Maybe it's not your best self. So I've always said to people, when I look at my my character, there's one character that reacts one way when everything's going well, but when that brown sticky stuff is hitting the fan, there's another part of me that comes out. I don't know if any, and Jodi's saying she relates to that as well. So I really I really do. I want to tell you, my personality changes quite dramatically. I get very I go from one personality type into a very clinical, um, matter-of-fact person when I'm under a lot of stress. I will, have a moment of panic, because that's, what happens. But then I will get very clinical about everything. I will start thinking, okay, what has to happen here? Who do I know that can help me? What do I have to do? Yes, and Jodi's saying, and I love the honesty of that, Jodi, right? Which is, when she starts to overwhelm or whatever, then every negative aspect of her personality comes out. And quite honestly, I'm certain it's not something of which you're very proud. And so what this whole discussion about emotional intelligence is, Jodi, and anybody else who wants to understand what I'm trying to get at here, is it is emotionally intelligent if you can see yourself doing it and go, wait 1 minute and just stop the world a minute. I just snapped at you because I went into overwhelm, and that's my stuff, and I'd like to apologize for it. And I need some help. Now that is emotionally intelligent, right? That we take full responsibility for our action. We take full responsibility for our negative feelings. We take full responsibility for, not being able to cope or whatever it is. As then we go, of course I can cope. I'm an adult, and coping is what adults do. Beth is saying, I cried at Walt Disney World because it was so amazing. Thank you, Beth. I'm glad somebody else does that. And I realized that my issues are so small, and I've been missing so much. The world is huge, and I don't want to lock myself up when it gets hard. There you go, Beth. Right? Jodi's saying, yes, I try to see myself outside of my body, if that makes any sense. It is a trick that I was taught by somebody once, Jodi, that if you can get outside of yourself and see how you're reacting from the outside in, then you are ahead of the game. And that's when you can go, wow, I just saw what I did there. And I want to tell you, I'm not very proud of it. And I can't justify it because it was rude or snippy or whatever. But I would like to apologize for it and realize that I had a little bit of a panicky moment there. And I'd like to just tell you how sorry I am I did that. That takes character. Let's go back to Nyasha. You remember Nyasha's reaction to her mother a couple of weeks ago, all right? When she lashed out at her mother because her mother did something to her. She took on her mother's anger and then threw it back at her with an insult or a terrible wish. That is one of those things where you need to have a bit of character and go, I just realized what I did. It wasn't very good. It wasn't very adult, and I'd like to apologize for it. So, to me, it's what emotional intelligence is that you can look at these things and just know that they're your things, not somebody else's. All right? Fireworks, Nana, are not related to war. You, in your mind, link it to war. That is your choice to do that, right? It's not a natural progression. Somewhere you have decided to make that link. So one of the things is, how do you desensitize that? If you'd like to know that, Nana, I will tell you, because I've had quite some experience of desensitizing people. But on the other hand, if you're quite happy linking those two for the rest of your life, yeah, that's your right. You don't have to change. So what I wanted to do is just tell you that I know you don't agree, Nana, and that's quite all right with me. That's quite all right. It's not about who's right or wrong. It is, I'm very happy that you don't agree, and I wouldn't expect you to agree. Right, and your excuse is, listen to this, Nana, this is your excuse. I remember so I don't forget where we came from, and that's not a bad thing. You are choosing to have a terrible association with fireworks. That is my point. And I cannot, you can say the reason why I do, that's the excuse, is so I never forget. I can wear a red poppy and remember the war, because that is what the national symbol is for war. All right, for those of us who grew up with that. But this is the whole thing. As long as you can see it is your choice to associate it. That's the point I'm making. That we choose to do this. So what I want you to do is just make sure that you understand feelings are not good or bad. Feelings are moments for us to look at why. Why do we do these things? Why do I react this way? Why do I choose to link these things this way? Why do I, and really the answers are not easy. And they are as personal as each and every one of us. So to me, it's like, I don't have the answer for Nana. I don't have the answer for anybody else. Emotional intelligence is when we choose to look at our stuff, not everybody else's. And if you choose not to do that work, that's also okay. Yes, and that's true, Nyasha. That's right. Because Nyasha's saying she's been listening to these insults all her life, and no amount of telling her to quit it is going to stop her. You're quite right. When you realize that her behavior is her behavior, and your job is to work out how not to have her behavior affect you, right? And so you can blame it on her. The reason I was rude to her was because she was nasty to me. But what emotional intelligence is when you can look at it and go, even though she attacks me emotionally, I choose not to react. That is emotional intelligence. Right? That you choose not to react to it. It's not easy. I'm not good at it, by the way. I'm not sitting here as a guru. I'm sitting here just passing on knowledge that I have been reading about this. It is my responsibility to keep my emotions under control, not anybody else's. Now, with a child, and most of you have been parents, with a child, you learn to nurture them and hug them and rock them out of their terror or whatever. But as an adult, we need to do that for ourselves. So here's what Jesse Scott said. When our emotional health is in a bad state, so is our level of self-esteem. How many of you would agree with that? That when your emotional health is in a bad state, so is your self-esteem. Do any of you agree with that? Yeah. Agreed. Okay. So then she went on to say, we have to slow down and deal with what is troubling us so that we can enjoy the simple joy of being happy and peace within ourselves. All right. The trick is to almost be Zen-like, all right, which is you can fire all these arrows at me, but I choose not to let them in. And yes, you see, again, Nyasha, you are justifying your behavior. That is why I said what I said. I wanted her to stop it. The interesting thing is, it would be more effective if you just literally went, ouch, that hurt, Mom, or Mommy, whatever you call her. That hurt. Did you mean to hurt me? Right? Not to lash out at her, but just to tell the truth. That hurt. Did you mean to hurt me? And if you answered her in that way, I think you would find it more effective. And listen to this. This is quite a big quote, so just hang on to this one for a second. Whether we're speaking of a flower or an oak tree, of an earthworm or a beautiful bird, of an ape or a person, we will do well, I believe, to recognize that life is an active process, not a passive one. Whether the stimulus arises from within or without, whether the environment is favorable or unfavorable, the behaviors of an orgasm can be counted on to be the direction maintaining, enhancing, and reproducing itself. This is the very nature of the process we call life. This tendency is operative at all times. Indeed, the only presence or absence of this total direction process enables us to tell whether a given organism is dead or alive. So part of this is, be aware that the fact you do react is probably a good thing because it tells you something about yourself. You're alive. All right? If you were dead, you wouldn't be reacting. But also, it's a moment for your body to tell you, it's your body to tell you what's going on, all right? So again, Niash just saying, I'll try that, but it seems to me that their lot in life is to hurt me constantly. I am certain if you got down to it, they are probably frustrated because they don't know what to do to help you. That's probably where it is. They're scared, I would think, to some degree. But I'm just saying, stop trying to find out whether that is what their lot in life is. I don't think so. I think, your job is just to let them know that it hurts. And if they choose to carry on doing it, you're not going to be able to stop them. And your issue is that you can't necessarily get out of the way of it. So I would really be concentrating on how, as I said, I'd be concentrating, how do I get out of the house and go to church and meet new people? Really. Because I need people around me that are positive, not negative. And so that is what I keep saying to you, that, that would be my number one goal, is to do something where I can get out of the house, however that's possible. And going to church is a pretty obvious one to me, where you can meet people who will, put some positive stuff into your life. And what this says here is we live in an adolescent society, Neverland, where never growing up seems to be the norm rather than the exception. Little boys wearing expensive suits and adult bodies should not be allowed to run big corporations. They shouldn't be allowed to run governments, armies, religions, small businesses, and charities either. And just quietly, they make pretty shabby husbands and fathers too. Mankind has become pankind, and whilst lost boys abound, there are also an alarming increase in the number of lost girls. So again, we need to grow up, and we need to see things for what they are in reality. Amit Ray said, the study of modern mindfulness, meditation, and emotional intelligence is deeply rooted in the ancient Visapnya meditation techniques. In other words, when we can literally take each thing that happens to us and as Jody said, sort of get outside ourselves and go, let me have a look at that for a second, and let me see, why did I react like that? That you see everything that happens to you as a learning lesson. Okay, how many of you can see that could end up being quite exciting? Not that you keep beating up on yourself, but you keep going, well, that's interesting. Now let me work out why I do that. There's bound to be a good reason why I do that. And how could I control that better? And how could I improve on it? You see, that is what emotional intelligence is. It's not about that you're perfect, but it's the fact that you can look at your stuff and fix your stuff. Jessica Moore said, having healthy boundaries not only requires being able to say no, but also being willing and able to enforce that no when necessary. All right? I would beg you not to reward bad behavior. If you've set a boundary with somebody, and they constantly overstep the boundary, then you know that is, not respectful. And you remember Pat's story, right? She had a sister-in-law that was forever abusing her and using her. And then one day she just said, no more. I'm not going to let that happen anymore. And she set down the boundary, and she's kept the boundary ever since. And guess what? The sister isn't nearly as keen to mess with Pat anymore because she knows it doesn't work. Now listen to this one. Anger is a sentry stalking the edges of our boundaries and standing ready to defend them. Let me repeat that because I want you to think about that. Anger is a sentry stalking the edges of our boundaries and standing ready to defend them. How many of you get angry when somebody crosses a boundary for you? It is a natural reaction, right? When somebody crosses your natural boundary, you will start to get angry about it. The only thing is you can't understand why you just got angry. Well, the reason you got angry is somebody at some subconscious level crossed your boundary. Yeah, it's going, me. I know that one. Good. And that's what I wanted to do. Some of these quotes are difficult, but if you can see them, you are well on your way, all right? How about by healing the parts of ourselves that are frozen in the past, we are able to bring them back into the present. And each time we do this, we become less fragmented and more whole. All right? So that's what I was saying. For example, you can choose to desensitize yourself to certain things. For example, I was talking to somebody at the doctor's office a little while back, and I said, well, that's what you get for being obese. And this woman said to me, don't say that about yourself. I said, why not? It's true. I said, I don't have an issue about that label. You see, it happens to be what I am. I am technically obese. It's not an insult. It's not rude. It is factual. And, I thought my doctor's receptionist was going to get up and give me a standing ovation because she just shook her head and said, only you, Sal. Literally under her breath, only you could say that out loud and believe every word of it. And I said, but it's true. And she said, yes, it is. But, Everybody wants to blame everything else for the reason. You're just going, I am obese. I don't have an issue with that. It's what I am. So, right. So, Nyasha, I understand what you're saying. All right. And I'm not going to repeat that because that's pretty private stuff. But, I understand what you're saying. I still cannot believe that a family would stop you from going to church if that is what you needed to do, that's what you wanted to do. To me, that is unthinkable. So, it's not about socializing. It's not about going and doing that. It's about you would like to go to church. End of story. And you need to find a way to do that if you want to, or you can stay inside. Your choice. Because what I have found out is if people really want to do something, they will find a way. Jessica Moore said, withdrawing and shutting down in response to life is just another way of getting triggered, and it is no more mature or healthy than emotionally overreacting. How about that? Withdrawing and shutting down. How many of you do that? When somebody says something you don't like, you withdraw and shut down. I'm certain some of you relate to this. So when you withdraw and shut down in response to life, it is just another way of getting triggered. In other words, you got triggered enough and you couldn't cope with it, so you got out of the line of fire, right? It's no more mature or healthy than emotionally overreacting. And so the reality is that we need to look at that. We need to look at, where do I shut down? How many of you know that feeling where you feel attacked and so you actually suck back into yourself and I don't want to play anymore. Right? And so what I'd like you to do is be aware of that. And I'm not saying that getting out of the line of fire isn't a good thing, but make sure you look at why you did it. Make sure you see your side of it. Why did you need to get out of the line of fire? Yeah, Jody's saying, I take it too personally and then I can't function for a while. I think we all relate to that, Jody. It's like, yeah, whenever we relate too personally, it can really mess us up for. How many of you relate to what Jody's saying? So, to me, it's like we all take things personally, and that's our job to look at that. All right. So, Jody, good work. The fact that you can see, I don't think you do it as much as you used to, though. I don't see you doing it as much as when I first met you. And so she also said emotionally healing requires more than simply changing how you feel. Your emotions are merely symptoms of the problem, not the problem itself, even when they hurt. Your emotions are merely the symptoms of the problem. Okay, so Isabel, do you want to talk about that? All right, so the fact that it makes you angry, what part of it makes you angry? Now, Jody, bad manners make you angry, right? How many of you relate to that one? If you see somebody being rude, it makes you angry. Or if you see somebody being unthoughtful or whatever, right? You see, part of it is why? Why do I do that? Okay, let me just see what Isabel said here. All right, good question. Good question. I like the question, Isabel. She says, because when somebody does something bad to me, how can I not take it personally? It's just their stuff. Eventually, hi Ty, eventually you will see it has not, it's just their opinion. It is just, you're not responsible for their behavior, and you're not responsible for what they say. All right. You will find eventually, Isabel, and it will happen, I assure you. Eventually, you will be able to see there's a difference. What they say and do is their stuff. What you say and do is yours. And if they say something bad about you and you react, that is your choice, right? You are choosing to be defensive instead of saying, hey, you're entitled to your opinion. So, to me, that is something I've had to learn, which is, as much as I hate it, they're entitled to their opinion, and their opinion of me can be totally wrong, and that's okay. And that's the learning, that it's okay. Not everybody's going to agree. That's okay. Yeah, Nyasha, that is part of the learning as well. Oh, Nana's trick when she meets rude people is that she always thinks, I have 2 minutes with you, and you get to spend the rest of your life being rude. Yeah. So you see, this is all right. So Jody's saying, I see with your help that it's my judgment that it's not right thing to do. Right. And it's not what I would do when someone else is rude, but I'm responsible for my behavior only. I'm a work in progress. Absolutely. And I always say as well, Jody, maybe they didn't have the good upbringing that you did. Maybe they didn't have somebody that constantly was on them about having good manners. And for that, they can probably be very grateful. The reason that I don't eat with my mouth open a whole lot is because, I would have been sent to go and eat in another room if I'd done that. Mind you, my table manners are not nearly as good as they used to be, I have to say. But you know what I mean? It's like not everybody was fortunate enough to have that. I notice, for example, something that came up by accident when I was visiting Benji and the girls recently is the girls were all eating with their elbows on the table. And I was not allowed to do that as a child. And then, bless her heart, Judy said to me, why, is that bad manners? And I said, well, it was in my mother's view. But I said, it's not anymore. I said, I'm not asking you to live by my mother's rules. I just want to tell you that it's a pleasure to come here and put my elbows on the table and eat with the children. The kid in me really likes that. So when you understand, if I insist that the children live by my rules, that's controlling. That's, it's like it's their life. They get to live their life the way they want to. And this says, unfortunately, human progress is generally determined by our spiritual, our emotional, and our intellectual development. Oh, sorry, it's generally determined not by our spiritual, emotional, or intellectual development, but by that of our technologies. How many of you have seen that our technology has totally changed our society? All right? That our technology has changed our society. Everything's in a rush now. I want an answer now. I sent you a text. Didn't you get it? Whereas in the old days, I sent you a letter, you knew it could take 2 weeks for the letter to get there. You'd give them time to think, and if you got a reply back in another 2 weeks, you were happy. It's like nowadays we expect everything to be happening instantly. A person who doesn't understand flowers might tug on them to make them grow. A person who doesn't speak the language of some place might misread the local sentiments and intentions. You are already such a flower, and your inner locales, your emotions, your body, and your thoughts are already speaking to you. If you don't learn the language of your experience, then how can you understand yourself? And how can you help yourself? All right? If you don't understand what's going on with you, you will never understand anybody else. And so it's okay that not everybody understands emotional intelligence. That's okay. But I know there's some people that want to understand it and work towards it better. I think it's okay that not everybody wants to do that. It's fine. And so to me, this is about not everybody wants to learn how to use a computer. Not everybody, I still have people that I know that have refused point blank to use a computer. And I'm going, how can you live in today's society without a computer? But you know something? They do. How about this? Sales is based on the most basic emotion. People like to buy things and they need from people they like, right? They like to buy things they need from people they like. What makes them like us? Comfort level, our listening ability, our solution providing skills, and the timely processing of their requirements. All right? So part of this is, if you guys didn't want to learn, I wouldn't be doing the broadcasts the way that I'm doing them. All right. The reason I'm stretching our knowledge base is because so many of you have asked, to do more of this stuff so we can understand things like our reactions and our emotions and our addictions and our whatever. So to me, it's like, it's amazing how much we can learn about ourselves if we choose to. Listen to it. You're going to like this one. All right. Everybody will understand this, I hope. Excuses are things like sausages stuffed with reason in the skin of a lie. Right? So excuses are things like sausages stuffed with reason in the skin of a lie. Somebody said to me once that when we rationalize things, we're telling rational lies. Does that make sense? That's what rationalizes. We get to rationalize our lies. And so if you can get a sense of humor about that. Hi, Nada. Well, Jody, it depends where your mindset is, right? It's fascinating if you're interested. It's probably boring as all get up if you're not interested. Yeah, I did too, Ty. So whenever you think about excuses, and that's why I say to everybody, what excuses are you giving yourself? It's the story. I remember talking to Benji one day about something, and he said, that's the story you tell yourself. And I didn't like that very much. But being who I am, I went home and thought about that. But luckily, I felt a lot better the following week when he told me a story, and I said, that would be a story you're telling yourself. And he burst out laughing, and I liked him for that. It went both ways. But how many of you tell yourself stories? I can't go out now, it's raining. Like the rain's going to kill me. Or now, on the other hand, and that's the difference, where is it an excuse and where is it a sensible reasoning? For example, when it was really high winds here and trees were about to fall down and all sorts of things, my decision not to go out was intelligent, not an excuse. It was like, it is downright dangerous out there. Things are flying around. There is gale force wind out there. I am not going out and risking my life. And I was correct, because that was, the day that it pulled out part of my trailer and took it away. I've never seen it since then. So it's like there's a difference between an excuse and a good reason. So Jody, the reason you don't go out walking is because you can't. That is a good reason. Right? I found it interesting where I made a comment last week about something, and one of the viewers was really quite insulted that I had said such a thing until they learned that the reason I had said it the way that I did was because the person I was talking about was in a wheelchair. And there was a reason why I said the words, and have you rolled yourself onto a scale? It wasn't that I was inferring that she was that heavy. It was because that's the only way she can get to a scale is to roll herself onto one. Do you understand? So this is like when we react to things that sometimes we don't understand, we need to look at it. Okay. I think, yeah, do you know, Nana? I didn't need you to own it, but I really love the way that you came back immediately and said I didn't realize that. But you understand, I had to think about it, and I thought, what on earth did I say that was so offensive? And then I realized what it was, and I went, wow, that would make a lot of sense that you would think that it was insulting if you hadn't known that I had every reason to say that. Yeah, it's okay, Nana. Let me send you a hug. What the point I was trying to make is that we all do that. Seek first to understand. Yeah. And absolutely, and we all do it, Nana. Not just you. We all do it. I do it all the time. Tyler, those winds were scary here. They're really scary. They were gale force winds and they were nasty. And so that day I forgave myself. But here was the difference, Ty. I forgave myself and didn't go out and walk. But what I said was I still have to do the number of steps. So I had to come up with a plan B as to how to get that many steps in. By the way, for those of you who are interested, I have now done 27 miles of walking. Isn't that amazing how it's added up? Right? You see, it isn't that I tried to walk 27 miles. I just said I want to walk this many steps a day and until I get to Abbotsford, right? However long that takes. Well, you see, Neda, I'm doing something about my weight. Doing something. I'm not complaining that I'm heavy, I'm heavy because of what I keep putting into my body and the fact I don't do enough exercise. But I also knew that I was not going to go out and exercise for the fun of it. I needed something fun to do that would make it exciting for me. And I want to tell you that I cannot believe that I walked from White Rock Pier, Nana, from White Rock Pier to Abbotsford in 2 weeks. I couldn't believe it. All right. So Jody's saying, I did it once. Very early on, I said, English, please, to a viewer without realizing that English was their second language, a lesson learned. Yeah. Did you know English is my second language, Jody? And I think that's really shattering my doctor a little bit as well, because I keep going, yep, self-inflicted wound. Okay, what do I do now? And he said, well, you need to do this, 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 and this. All right. And I go, well, I'll see which one of those I'm ready to do, because I realize I don't have to be perfect. When he said to me, you may need to go on to the morphine, what is it called? The tablets. I said, do I have to? And he said, no, but it might be recommended. And I said, okay, we'll talk about that if it gets recommended. But I'm not in a hurry to take the pills. Yeah. Metformin. Right. Thank you, Jody. What was your first language, Nana? Yeah, you know something, Ty? It's chilly, but going out for a walk when it's chilly does wonders for you, doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah, I can't believe I've done 27 miles since December the 26th. That's amazing. No, but you've always spoken English. It's not like you started with another metformin. I thought it was metformin. Metformin. Thank you. I'm learning. Yeah, I don't think it was, it's interesting. I suppose it is like a different language, right? I understand what you're saying, Nana. So to me, I had a problem because I grew up speaking Dutch until I went to school. So to me, it was, definitely a second language in some ways. Yes, you see, that's so true, right, Nana? Until she went to school, I spoke what I was taught. Absolutely. So, it wasn't that we didn't speak English, but we spoke as much Dutch as we spoke English. So to me, I was sort of, multilingual. I had both languages going on, which was great in my family, but it didn't work very well at school. It's funny because, I spent, as you know, many years in Africa, Ty, and, I'd be out riding all day long in 40-degree heat plus, without any sunscreen on. And, really, really interesting, how different it is. Nana, you had different words for things. I want to tell you that I found out that when I went from Africa to North America, I was amazed how many different words there were for things here in North America. It was really quite scary. I can remember I was the associate publisher at a publishing company here. And what I kept saying, now I know this is a word so and so. I just want to check whether you call it that here in North America. I had to do it all the time because nobody knew what I was talking about. Okay, so Beth's saying, I had a moment at work today. I completely messed up the paperwork. I could feel my body tense up and start to lose it. Panic mode set in. I fixed the error, cried on the way home because I screwed up. And then I'm so hard on myself. I want to tell you something, Beth. The fact that you can see that you're doing that to yourself is, and that is sad. I agree with you. But what is so incredibly joyful is that you can see it. Right? That is the joy of it, that you can see now what you've been doing to yourself all your life. And how cruel is that to yourself, all right? I've always said that I think we're much harder on ourselves than other people are on us. We beat up on ourselves far more than other people do. If you haven't heard the broadcast we did at lunchtime, I was doing quotes from Richard Branson. And he said some incredibly wonderful things about just being who you are. And it is, I didn't know that he left school at 16. I didn't know that he owned 200 companies and wasn't a director of any one of them. There were all sorts of things about him that I didn't know. And I found fascinating. And I hope those of you who were there found it interesting as well. You see, we each do the best we can with the knowledge we have. Yeah, Beth is saying her manager said, "Do I make you nervous?" I told her the truth and said, "No, I make myself nervous." Yay. She said that was a great answer and she loves my honesty. Was it Michelle? I think that's wonderful that you could answer like that. That shows emotional intelligence, Beth. Right? That you can see that you make yourself nervous. That is awesome, Michelle. Right? I think that's wonderful. I really do. I'm so proud of you. And it's sort of when you can say it, Beth. Does it feel better when you can say no? I'm not blaming you for it. I do this to myself. All right. So Jodie's saying it was fascinating. This was really interesting. Fascinating to learn that he overcame severe dyslexia. Yes, right, to become so very successful today. I thought there were lots of things about his story that I found fascinating, and that's why I wanted to bring it to you, because I think we presume he was just a smart cookie from the get-go, which he was. Okay, Niesha's saying, I do have loads of that medication. Advised to take them, but it affects my sleep patterns at present. I'm not sleeping at night. Sometimes I do, most times I don't. Okay, so if you are being told to take medication and you're choosing not to take it, that is your choice, right? But then what's the point of them giving you the medication if you don't take it, would be my question. The metformin. I think, Nana, I'm presuming that's what we're talking about here. Is that correct? Yeah, Nada's saying, what if the medication doesn't help you, though? Well, yeah. Okay, and Tyler's saying, I make myself nervous. I have a mirror in front of my shower. Metformin is for diabetes. It is possible. It is possible that I will be told that I should be on metformin. I will then make a decision as to whether I want to do it or not. So I can understand that. Right? And what I'm going to do is wait to see whether the Diabetes Society or whatever it's called tells me that I need to be on it. I gathered from my doctor that I got a feeling my doctor's not in a hurry to put me on it either. I think he really thinks also for nerve pain. Is that right? And Niesha has nerve pain. Interesting. Thank you, Pat. Are you busy in the quilting room? I love it when you pop in. I can see you going, excuse me a second, Sal. They gave it to you for your back. Really? That's interesting. Now, Beth, did she lose the weight because of the metformin, or did she lose it because of what she did? Nada. We are delighted that you love us so much. It's, we are a group of people all learning together here. Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? Because that is great to hear. So that sort of encouraged me a little bit. What my doctor said is by taking it, you are lessening the time until you have to take insulin. So, that is interesting. I'll see, like anything else in life, what I'm going to do is I'm going to listen to what the dietitian tells me, listen to what my doctor tells me, and then make a decision. Well, I'm sure Beth is saying she lost weight because she was pregnant and throwing up for 3 months. Well, she's lost it now and it's good now. Well, I'm not going to get pregnant to lose weight. Although that's interesting. Yeah, I remember somebody once, a boss of mine, Beth, telling me that the reason the guy I was training earned more money than I did, he earned more money than I did, and the reason was because he was married. And I said, so if I get married, I get to earn more than he does, right? And they didn't like that logic. So I said, let me go out and find somebody to marry. I'll be right back. It's just like insane. I was his boss. How on earth can he be earning more money than I am? That was insane. Good night, Nana. All right. So yes, Joanna, thank you for popping in. Proper diet and exercise can also be alternatives. Yes, and I think that's what my doctor was saying, but he didn't quite say it, which is, Sal, give yourself a chance to do the right things, and let's see if doing the right things doesn't correct it, then we need to put you on something. But I think the thing that shocked him was the fact that my A1C was so good. Yeah, I genuinely think he was surprised to see that. He expected it to be bad, really bad, and it wasn't. It was out of, it wasn't in the diabetic range at all. For some reason, when I did that blood glucose test, my body didn't want to absorb the glucose. So, and I still haven't quite got my head wrapped around that. And I'm certain some of you will understand how is that possible. But, I keep thinking about Beth's description of the storehouse, and the storehouse got full. Okay, so you don't scare me, Nasha. What you do to your body is up to you. Whether you choose to take your medication or not is up to you. We can tell you that, whether we think, from our experience, whether it's a good idea or not, but quite honestly, it's your body. Yes, and that's, Pat, that is what I believe my doctor was saying to me, which is he knows that I'm already, he told me not to worry over Christmas, just be careful. I told him I did everything that I know I'm going to be told to do, and I started it before Christmas. And he said, good, well done. I said, and I've already walked this many miles. He said, good, well done. And then I said, and I'm also watching my carbs. I'm keeping my carbs below 50%. He said, really? And I said, yes, I am. And he said, well done, good. And so I think what he knows is that I'm doing everything on my side that I can do to assist this process. And so, Pat, I think as well that, eating the right things, and I'm not saying that I can't have anything. I just have less of everything. Does that make sense? In other words, I still have pasta, but I have far less of it. I still, I have once a week I have eggs on toast, but the toast is this big, It's just like everything is downsized into sort of hobbit size. I want to tell you something. Pat is a wealth of information from my experience of knowing her many years. Yeah. And so, I just said to him, I refuse to tell myself at this age that I can't have anything. I realize I can have everything I want if I do it in moderation. Yes, Beth, isn't that incredible? He's obese as I am, all right? He's got high blood pressure, which I don't, and sleep apnea, which I do. You're right. So, yeah, track my foods. I do that every day, Pat. And literally I do it every day, and we've got a little group of us that actually put up our figures every day. Eggs on crumbs, Nada, yeah. But you know something, Nada? You have no idea how good that little piece of toast tastes. I'm not joking. You have no idea how good that tastes, once a week. Whereas before toast was okay, fine, toast. Now it's like, I'm going to have toast. So whoever said that, and I think somebody did, you get to appreciate food at a whole different level. The other thing is, I really do have to say this. You've lost 38 pounds since your surgery. Awesome, Pat. And you told me you couldn't do that. You are the lady that told me you could not do that. Huh? I'm so proud of you, Pat. I am so proud of you. So what is the trick? What is the trick that you have found? I was talking to somebody in the Walmart this week, and she was 90 something. No, I didn't read that. You know, I must be losing my eyesight because I thought I read that Pat saying that she exercises. No, that's not the Pat I know. She told me point blank that's no way she's ever doing that either. She wasn't going to lose weight and she wasn't going to exercise. You are a sneaky little so-and-so, Patricia. Well, with all due respect, Beth, why does a doctor need to tell Charles that he's overweight? Like, Charles doesn't know that? So you can only eat 4 ounces of food at a time. That is your choice, or that is your reality now? Portion control is really the secret. I found that putting all my meals into mason jars, 1 cup, I can have pasta, but it's 1 cup. Pat, I love you for that, right? Pat's going for, she wants to be obese instead of morbidly obese. I'm looking to be overweight. I'm heading, that's my goal. I just want somebody to tell me that I'm not obese anymore. I'm just overweight. Can't remember what weight I have to be. I think it's 197 would make me overweight instead of obese. It's a long way to go yet, Pat, but I'm heading there. That's what my goal is. And I've upped the number of steps I take in a day. And so I look at it. So do you understand that all this is about dealing with reality? Yeah, Pat's moving to obese. She's heading in my direction. Well, you're already 38 pounds on the way. I'm so proud of you, Pat. Oh, I want to send you such a big hug. Well, I'd like to, Beth's saying because he's a doctor and should is a guilt word, and should tell him whether it offends him or not. They just wait until he's really bad, like diabetes, before they actually say the words that you're morbidly obese and scare him. I disagree. I think they presume that he's adult enough to know it. Right? It was like my doctor asked me almost every time I went to see him, how's the smoking going? And I used to say, it's going really well. Thank you for asking. Yeah, Tyler says as long as he has a mirror in front of his shower, he knows that he's definitely overweight. Yeah. And, you're adult enough to know that, and you still choose to eat what you eat. That is an adult decision. It's like we shouldn't need a doctor to tell us. I've known that I've been obese for the longest time, right? I realize now that it was childish of me to keep going in that direction and not do something about it out of choice. I had to wait until I get diabetes, right? So yes, I get your point, Beth. But the truth is, we all have the excuses we give ourselves. What did I say? I can't help it. I keep putting on weight. I don't understand why. Well, I know why now. My portions were getting bigger and bigger. It was like insane. So I look when we can keep a sense of humor. All right. So Beth is saying most patients, I think, need to hear the words spoken by their doctors to choose to change based on the outcomes of their bad behavior. Yes, I understand. I think the word diabetes, that's why, Beth, when I heard the diagnosis that I had diabetes, I just immediately said, okay, fine, self-inflicted wound. I didn't get all upset about it or, oh gosh, no, what's happened to my life. I just literally in fact, I think I chuckled. I said, yeah, that would be a self-inflicted wound. So what do I need to do? There are an awful lot of people, Beth, with all due respect, when I first met you, you were busy not eating your way to death. All right. So you know what I'm saying? It's like, we each have these things that we do. Ty, to be fat and happy, yeah, a lot of people use that as an excuse. I'm okay, I'm fat and happy. All right. Um, but we pay the price for that as well, Ty. So to me, it's like I'm trying to be much more aware of the excuses I give myself. And I'm definitely trying to cut them out a bit. I'm not perfect by any matter of means, but I am trying to be more emotionally intelligent about them. Does that make sense? I'm trying not to blame it on something or somebody or whatever. This is about the reason I got obese is because of how much I put in my body and how little exercise I got. End of story. Now it's up to me. By the way, I am now on the second leg of my across British Columbia journey. I've already reached the first milestone, which I thought I would not reach until February, Valentine's Day. I've already reached Abbotsford, and I'm now on the second leg, which is Abbotsford to Chilliwack. So that's very exciting. I've done 27 miles already. Don't you think that's incredible? With just doing 5,000 steps a day. Yes, we do, right, Ty? All right. It's okay to splurge, but also be smart and counteract it. Yes, I found that Jodie's little thing to me about if it's sweet, then eat meat. That is really a good thing. If you've had something sweet, make sure that you balance it with protein. That to me has been really, my doctor liked that too, Jodie, by the way. Right. So Beth's saying, I know that when I went to the doctor, they never told me I needed to gain weight. And even if they had told me, I still wouldn't have, I need to do it on my own. Yes, you had to be prepared, but that's the whole thing, Beth. And the same thing, you had to be ready to hear that on your own, right? The same as Charles knows that he is obese. He doesn't get to that weight and not know he's obese. I mean, he'd have to be blind, right? But does he want to do anything about it? That is the question. All right. And only he can make that decision. Right. So, I think when we can see these things and laugh at them, you know what I mean? I think that's getting pretty emotionally intelligent. When we can see that, boy, I spent my life waiting for everybody else to change when really the person that needs to change is me. I think when you can see that, that's emotionally intelligent. I blamed this on everybody for so long, and now it's time. I've given this excuse for so long, but the truth is, it's time for me to do something. When you can see that, that's getting emotionally intelligent. And when we don't overreact to everything, that is getting emotionally intelligent. When we don't take everything personally, that's getting emotionally intelligent as well. So this first step that we have taken today was not easy, quite honestly. I'm certain there are a lot of people that didn't want to hear some of this stuff, but that's okay too. When we go into the next thing, first is personal awareness. The next one is social awareness. That's the next pillar of emotional intelligence. Not that we can just be aware of what we do, but now we get ourselves into a social environment and what triggers us there and what are we going to do about it. And so hopefully that you will continue to do this journey. How many of you are finding it valuable? Oh, absolutely right, Beth. Right. Don't nag him. Beth is saying, I stopped telling Charles he needs to lose weight because it puts a wedge between us. He needs to do it on his own. And then if he wants, I will help him. Yeah. Yeah, he needs to. That's what they say about anybody with an addiction, whether it's food or anything else. You can't help somebody that doesn't want to be helped. All right. I can't help people here who don't want to be helped. Makes sense. It's like, they'll have an excuse for everything, and that's okay. When they're ready, they will learn. I just want to tell you that my experience has been, I cannot believe what I have learned downsizing. How many of you can imagine that? Where I keep looking at things and going, why have I held on to this for 30 years? It's broken, for goodness sake. What I'm going, let it go. My realtor was saying to me, how much have you given away, Sal? I said, not very much. No, I haven't. I said, I either chucked it or I kept it. She said, just like that. I went, yep. I said, maybe when I unpack, I'll start giving stuff away. But quite honestly, right now, I've either chucked it or I've kept it. It's been quite simple. I haven't kept it to go in a garage sale or do whatever. It's a case of, do I want it? Yes or no? Done. Ireland, how are you doing? I was thinking about you this week. Oh, Pat, it is horrific. I've learned so much about myself doing it. Well, bless your heart, Ireland. I want to ask you, how is your challenge going? Because I know you're fighting demons there. It's funny. I was thinking about you this week, and I realized I didn't have a way of getting hold of you. So I do have that request of you, Ireland. If there's any way you could write to me at DearMamaSal@gmail.com, just so that I can get hold of you. Well, you know something? I appreciate it, Ty, because I know it's not an easy subject, right? So I want to make sure that I'm not taking a subject that's out of the park for people. I had a feeling that you guys that are here regularly were ready for this. Okay. Ireland, that's your decision. I'm sad, but that's your decision, right? Okay. Yeah. Really, I must have heard you because I really did. I'm not laughing at you. I am laughing at myself because I could feel that. Okay. So I want to thank you all for doing this. Sunday, I'm doing the broadcast on our Soul Sunday with quotes from Oprah. So I am hoping that will. Yeah, Pat, I can't talk about it out loud because he asked me not to. Yeah, we all live on vibrations. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I can feel them a lot. Right. So, what I wanted to say is I think that we'll get some really nice quotes from Oprah and maybe some stuff about Oprah that we didn't know before. So yeah, something, that is a great song. I quite agree with you. So everybody, I want to thank you for tackling a difficult subject, and I will continue to do these on Friday evening for those who do want to learn and understand a bit more. I'm not asking for anybody to change who they are. I'm just going to make sure you have the information. Does that make sense? Because the only way that we can choose to improve is by learning more about why we do the things we do. And Ireland, big hugs to you, and I'm just delighted you popped in because that tells me a great deal that you came anyway. I did not get a new car from Oprah. No, sorry, it wasn't under my seat. No, nor the trip around the world or any of those things. But I do know that she has given the world so much. Well, thank you, Isabel, and thank you for being here. And I really appreciate it. Well, we will continue and the thing that I keep trying to say to people is understand that everybody who comes to these broadcasts, are all on their own path. We're all fighting something or trying to do something better. And that is all that we can do, is to keep learning and understand their reasons for why we do what we do. And like Pat, there's a reason why she's lost 38 pounds, right? She did the right things. Well done, Pat. I am so proud of you. And Pat, it's getting very much closer. I didn't actually do that, Pat, so hang on a second. Let me just see what's going on here. I know it's different in your neck of the woods, Pat, but bear with me. Pat, for you. Dum, 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 dum. Just hold on. It's 347 days until Christmas. It is, Pat, only 67 days until spring. Which means tell Bill it's time to go and clean out the trailer soon. All right? Because you're going to be camping soon. Well, I know that you're sick. Ty, great to see you. Hugs to you. You're working full time, Pat? Doing what, honey? There's all this information we don't know about. Jody, could we make some notes here about Pat dropping 38 pounds and now working full time? Well, thank you so much. And, tomorrow I will be celebrating big time on my 6 years without smoking. Some part of me goes, I might even go and have a cigarette. Almost a year now. Boy, some people would say, yeah, thanks for keeping me informed, Pat. Yeah. What are you doing, honey? Really? So you are the supervisor? And is it something that they asked you to do? They came and asked you, would you come and do this? I'm sure it's been a very eventful year, yeah. Well, I want to tell you, I'm twice your age, and I don't feel like a very old woman, Nyasha. Yeah, I'm not surprised they came and asked you, Pat. Yeah, I know what it is. I didn't need to be advised of what that was, but I can imagine you being that person. I think it's wonderful that you're doing that. Do you feel good for doing it, Pat? Has it changed you in any way? I think that's incredible. Can I share that with people who know you? Is that okay? Smart cookie, Pat. Well done. Yes, emotionally, it must be very hard at times. Your heart must want to break every now and then. Thank you so much. I will make sure that we let the people know. You are a much loved part of Dear Mama Sal, Pat. And from that point of view, I do need you to know that I was out there looking at my crocuses coming up and thinking any minute now, Bill will be doing sunflowers. Isn't it funny? I can't look at my crocuses now without thinking about Bill and the tulips and the snow and then the sunflower. It's really you've got this part in my heart, whether you like it or not. It's like it's really strange, Pat. I just can't look at my crocuses It's really strange. Don't be sorry, Nyasha. It's quite all right. All right. So yeah, thank you for the tulip and the sunflower, Nada. You're so stealth. Where do you find those bits? I haven't got the. Oh, wait a minute. Is it the smiley face thing? Wait. Food. No, don't go to the food one, Sal. There you go. What shall I do? Oh, I've learned something today. Thanks, Nada. So big hugs to you all. Thank you for being here. Let's all work on being emotionally one step more intelligent this week. And I will continue to do these sessions on Friday evenings for as long as people are interested in it. All right. So 67 days until spring. So exciting. When did the clocks move? Yeah, but actually, if you look below here, I found them. It's actually here. Joanna, good to meet you. And thank you for joining in. If there's anything ever that I can talk about that would help you, please let me know. Just write to me at DearMamaSal@gmail.com. You see, I've just learned how to do something now. So thank you so much. You know I'm going to be pathetic now. Clocks move in March. Okay. They move all the time, actually, Jody. Spring forward, right? Yep, we spring forward. There we March 10. Well done, Joanna. All right, so, well, I know it's 67 days and 16 hours. Let me get out of here. All right, everybody, have a super Saturday. I will see you on Sunday. And we'll be doing quotes from Oprah Winfrey. And in the meantime, look after one another. But as usual, let's work on ourselves because we're the ones causing most of our own problems and also all of our own happiness. Think about that. This is Dear Mama Sal going. Bye-bye for now. Thank you. Thanks, Jody.